ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Roundtable. My name is Robert Bannon. I'm so excited you're watching us on Broadway World or listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network. Here on YouTube, you could like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss a moment of some of the great artists that we have that come on our show. Hudson Hall has announced a semi-stage musical drama based on Frederick Douglass. Holy moly. As a social studies teacher, we teach a lot about this, and it's coming to Hudson, New York at the Hudson Hall at the Hudson Opera House, November 2nd. No Cowards in Our Band is what it's called. I'm so excited. I think we have Frederick Douglass himself is here, right here. Masud, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I don't want to mess up your name. Can you tell us your name properly? Because you will say it right, and I'd rather not look a fool.
No, I appreciate that. You were close. It's Masud.
Masud.
And then the last name is Olufani.
Oh, and that's why I asked you to say it, because
believe me, when I changed my name back in 2000, it took me a while to get my tongue around it, so I understand.
Okay. Well, I love that. You are about to, what does a semi-staged musical mean?
I think it's a step down from a full-on production, meaning that the kind of scenery, it's not a full-on scenic play. So where the entire stage would be kind of like this immersive environmental experience. For this production, there are elements that relate to Frederick Douglass's life that are pulled from his home environment, which the incredible set designer has come up with. So things like his desk, some other items that will give us a sense of time and of place without having to do a full immersive stage design. And that, coupled with the music and hopefully my competent oration, will create an incredible experience for the audience.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Well, before we talk more about that and tell you where you can get your tickets and information, you are somebody who is multidisciplinary artist. Like, you are not somebody who's just singing and acting and playing Frederick Douglass. How do you define art? What kind of artist are you?
Yeah, I think art is creativity. I think everybody has the capacity to be creative. I think if we're doing work that is meaningful to us and then somehow aligns with what I like to call our calling, other people might say our skill set or a kind of internal kind of attunement, that can be elevated to a kind of art, right? I don't limit, my practice, my multidisciplinary practice engages primarily 3.5 disciplines. I say and a half because I also sing, but I do that. I don't do that as often as the others. So I would say that the main focus of my multidisciplinary practice is writing, the visual arts, and also performance acting primarily. And all of them are interrelated. I think, we live in a society that I think is growing more accustomed to people having a variety of things that they do and being able to do them at a high level. I think for a while, people were kind of siphoned into they were siloed in a particular area. They were pigeonholed that way. Well, no, that's what you do. You can't tell me you do that also. No, I can't accept that,
Right.
But I think we're in a time now where we're a bit more expansive about how we view people's, engagement and the things that they're involved in, and an openness to that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, if you want more information about his beautiful artwork and all that you do, you can go to your website, which is below us, and you can click the link. And you have artwork. I mean, you have performed literally around the world. Mm-hmm. And you have created art inspired by literally the world. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have such beautiful stuff. And if you go on there, you'll know more about if you're in Senegal, if your Morehouse years and all of the work that you did, your MFA, he's a fancy artist, people. He's not slumming it with us. You said that you are an artist, you are an actor, you are a writer, and that you sometimes sing. But this is a musical?
It is. I will not be taking on any singing duties. We have Opera Ebony, and they're fabulous. So it's going to be, there's a collection of artists who were part of Opera the Opera Ebony group. This is a mixture of people from Opera Ebony and some other singing groups, but they're incredible singers, all of them. So my main focus for this, they don't need me to sing. They just need me to hold the pail as the orator of Douglass's incredible words. And, I always say that for me, acting, performing, it begins with what's on the page. And it's very hard for me to perform something that is not well written. I mean, I can fake it, but the proof is really in the quality of the language that's on the page. And that's a key to how I handle the oration, what words get emphasized, when my voice is booming, when it's quiet, when it's to a whisper, when it's, monotone, when it is rhythmic, all of that is on the page. So from that standpoint, it's an easy gig, but it is challenging in terms of giving the gravitas to a man who was the most photographed person in America in the 19th century and a world-renowned orator and the leading proponent of the anti-slavery movement.
So here's my question to you. I've seen Frederick Douglass depicted in film, on television. We've seen his photo. We've read about him in history class. Some people have done deep dives into his life. Literally, college courses are taught about what he's able to be done. But it's not like you could just YouTube him giving a speech back in the 1800s. So how do you bring your actor sensibility to a role that we don't have, primary source documents of him on tape where you can take and give your best version of him?
Yeah, there are some firsthand accounts of the quality of his voice, which was around a bass baritone, according to the firsthand accounts.
Well, check.
Yes, we have that. We have that. And then he had the rhythmic flow of a kind of like preacher, right? So there is a quality of speaking and preaching that comes out of the Black church tradition that has a musicality to the intonation. It's not just speaking words, but rather it's in a way singing the words in the way that Dr. King used to sing his sermons. There's a difference between saying, we're all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, or the way that King says it, we're all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied together forever in a single garment of destiny. So there's a rhythm there, right? There's a flow. And so that's assumed that he had that capacity. And based on the accounts that we have of his public speaking, he was a mesmerizing orator. And I can't imagine him, not understanding how to use the instrument in a very effective way. And also he was deeply convicted about what he was talking about. So all of that makes for a powerful, powerful presentation. Yeah.
Well, in the press release, it talks about that this particular piece is an aging and contemplative Frederick Douglass that is set against the backdrop of post-Reconstruction America. So you're talking about, well, a lot of the topics that I'm sure you reach upon are very relevant in this version of America, which some will say is very similar to the version of America back then. And it's in a very important time in our nation's history that we bring up these things and cycle through race and economics and accessibility to all sorts of things. How do you feel the connections and themes of this show lend to the current climate we're in?
It's interesting. I mean, the great project of freedom and freedom in the sense of the freedom to be oneself, right? Fully. Mm-hmm. To be kind of self-actualized in a very deep way. That's an ongoing project. And Douglass represents a period in time when it was most decisively exemplified within the struggle for freedom from slavery, right? The dismantling of enslavement. And yet now, today, we still seem to be struggling with the ramifications and repercussions of not fully coming to terms with that history in our nation. And then there are the other freedoms, right? I mean, there are the other things that we all are struggling with, right? Trying to create space where we actually embody what what we call that that new beloved Jerusalem, that new beloved city, that new shining city on a hill, right? That really makes space for our diversity and celebrates the uniqueness of each individual, and doesn't seek to marginalize, to objectify, to dehumanize anyone, but respect the fullness of who we are. So Douglass, in a sense, echoes through time. So the struggle that he was engaged in back in the 1800s, right, is a clarion call through the ages. So we feel very much his spirit in the moment. And to understand freedom fully in this country, most historians, I think, who astute historians, and I would certainly argue that you must understand Douglass. There is no concept of freedom in America without the personification of Douglass, the figure of Douglass, and what he represented in America.
Absolutely. If you want to get your tickets right before Election Day, literally right before Election Day, hudsonhall.org is where you can get your tickets while we're talking, so you can get your tickets and be inspired. I was reading the press release. Some of these songs have been done, and some of the toughest, most hip-hop, hoppiest people have been left in tears. People have been rising to their feet. I know that you say you don't sing in this, but we have to give Anthony Knight Jr. and Orrin Evans and Michael Hofmann, the creative team behind this piece, a lot of kudos. I mean, if you do any research or know anything about Anthony Knight Jr., he's done a lot of work and a lot of work in communities for young children of color and giving word and effort. I teach in Detroit. I teach in middle school in Detroit. And I know that we all need the support we can get, and art and outlets for people. So what's it like in a creative world to work with these three people in particular on this piece?
Well, it's interesting because the piece is in the way it's constructed in a real sense is this. It's structured in a kind of call and response, right? Which we know that that comes out of the Black church, and then it comes out of the Black church vis-a-vis West Africa, because in West Africa, that's a musical tradition that they had long before there ever was America, right? In its colonized state. So there is this notion of this idea of Douglass giving voice, telling his story, and then these amazing singers coming in and responding musically to the words. So in a way, what it does is there's this ebb and flow, this oscillation between the lyricism of the spoken word and the lyricism of the sung word. And that creates this beautiful kind of space of creativity and movement, where we're kind of almost like an inhale and an exhale between myself and the singers. So there's a symbiosis and a synergy, a interconnectedness, an interdependence that happens through that process of call and response with these brilliant words that Anthony Knight has put down on paper, and the singers with these incredible songs from the old Negro spirituals. It's a powerful piece, and I'm really honored every time I get an opportunity to do it, to step on stage and do it. So
when you got offered this part, and however it came to you, audition, friends, connections, however it happened, was there any nerves or trepidation to step into a role of someone that is a figure that's really larger than life?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. The nerves are always there. I think, I don't know many performers that don't contend with nerves. However, I feel in some sense, given the demands of the role and the kind of the qualities that a performer needs to bring to bear to give a convincing portrayal of Douglass, for whatever reason, I seem to have some of those abilities. So in that way, there is a sense that I'm capable of doing this. I'm prepared. I have what I need to bring to bear the profundity of the man, the power of the man, the kind of majestic statesmanship of the man. And so that is, there's a sense that the nerves are there, but then there's also a sense of stepping into something that you feel prepared for.
Have you started rehearsals yet? Have you heard these singers sing?
Oh, yeah.
What can we say? What can you expect? Are we ready for this?
They're stunning. I mean, I think there is going to be a real tug in the audience between paying more attention to what Douglas has to say or more attention to what the singers are singing. Hopefully, it is something that they will enjoy on both sides, and they are powerful, powerful singers, and the audience is in for a real treat.
Well, Nia Drummond is the soprano, Edward Washington II is the tenor, and Gregory Shepard is the bass.
Yes.
And I'm ready for the whole of it. And this is the part that shocked me. This is the
Yes.
part. You can go see this show. You can get tickets at Hudson Hall, which is beautiful. Hudson Hall venue. You can get the best seats in the house to see these singers, to see this actor, to hear these words put together for less than $50. I think I'm not talking about last row in the mezzanine. I'm talking about best seats you can get for. So you talk about the perfect night where you don't have to break the bank because you can't see a show in New York City without mortgaging your house and selling your children. So this is your chance that you can see something and really make a difference. What is the idea of No Cowards in Our Band? Where does that title fit into the show?
Very interesting. It was attributed to the Black soldiers during the Civil War. And essentially what was said, we don't take any cowards in our band. So it's a call to arms. It's a call to courage to fight for one's freedom, not only the freedom of the nation, but one's own personal freedom, the freedom of one's family. So, yeah.
Masud, I think I said it right. Masud,
Yes.
you're the kind of actor, as an actor, I'd be scared because you know way too much history. You've done too much research. You have done. You are not just taking the words off the page and showing up there. You are coming in with the receipts of what you're doing.
Well, that's my mother's fault, really. You know, God rest her soul. She passed in 2007, but she had a wall of books in our apartment, and so we were living in New York City at the time on Roosevelt Island, no doubt, and for a while. Actually, this is a little bit later. I was living in Far Rockaway, Queens. I was going to high school in Newark, New Jersey, because it was the only arts high school that would accept me outside of the district. So I was getting up at 5 a.m. and I would spend an hour and a half on the train. You remember when they had World Trade Center Station downtown? I'd take the PATH train at World Trade Center Station to go to Penn Station in Newark, and that's where I would go to school. So I had all of this time. This is long before iPads and iPhones and all that kind of stuff. And so what was I going to do? I was either going to listen to my Walkman. We actually had Walkmans back then.
I know.
Yes. Or I could fall asleep. I did that a few times. Or I could read. And so I started reading. And it was in that process, right, that unexpected liminal space between home and going to school, right, on that train, that I developed a love of language and a love of learning and history. And so whatever capacity I have to draw on history, it's seated there, it's rooted there.
Well, look, this is what I'm going to say, everyone listening. As a proud Jersey boy who teaches at NJ Pack Musical Theater in Newark, New Jersey, I knew that he was smart and educated because he would step through the state of New Jersey. See, that's just a prereq. No matter, he can be from New York, but I smelled the Jersey influence on you and on your spirit. But I love that going to a performing arts high school and you see the artwork and like we said, we can go to your website and your art is beautiful and you can feel free to ship some to my house and we'll put. I just want to say that as a young child and those formative years, a lot of my students watch these chats that we have. Did those days matter? Did the arts high school training, does the training you got through your life and through your career still come into play when you are doing something professional at this age and stage of your life?
Yeah, I mean, arts schools are so critically important, right? It creates a safe space for imaginative thinkers, people who that for whatever reason, their inner attunement kind of places them outside of the traditional social order, if you will. So, and arts education is an incubator for people who are that's the way that they live their lives, who are at a very critical time in their lives, are looking for safe spaces, spaces to be fully themselves, to read Shakespeare, to read, you know, Chekhov and all this other stuff, to sing the great spirituals, the great opera pieces, what have you, and not to be made fun of or called too sensitive. So these art schools are safe spaces. And what happens is, as a result of that, if you're fortunate enough to be in those spaces, it gives you a sense of your own value, your place in the world. The fact that what you have to do, what you have to bring forth to the world, what you have to bring to bear to the world is needed in the world. And quite oftentimes creative kids don't get that if they're in the wrong space. You know, they're laughed at, they're told what they're doing is not serious. You can't earn a living. What are you doing? And so to be in a safe space, and I went to Arts High School, to be in that safe space and to, you know, come to school, and the cool kids are the ones who are, you know, creating the incredible paintings or doing the drawings or, you know, playing the drums or the cello, you know, or dancing, you know, those are the cool kids. And, you know, so it's such critical spaces, and they have long-term lasting impacts, that training, that rigor, right? That approach to one's craft, which you probably previously did. You probably got some encouragement from your family, and it may have been a good hobby. But then you get into some of these spaces and they're like, no, this is rigor. This is discipline. We are calling on you to step up your game even further, because in order to operate in this space, you have to bring your best and you have to be trained. It's that's so important to have that training and that grounding, and that prepares us for what's to come later on in life. So
that was an answer, y'all. That is the truth. That is the truth. And as someone who didn't go to an arts high school, I was working professionally as a kid or going to New York to study on the weekends. Then no one understood it, but to be around people, when I had the moments where I could be around other people who understood the need and the itch and the desire within, I think being an artist is a calling. Like, it is something bigger and more divine than we are. And not everyone gets it, but but people appreciate it, even if they don't realize they do, when they watch a television show or go to the movies. Art makes the world go round. And so does this piece. And this piece is going to make a lot of people feel a certain way and inspire and move us all. It's important that we hear these lessons and messages more than ever. So I implore you to get your tickets. Go to hudsonhall.org before they're gone. Make sure you grab your tickets. It's going to be one heck of an evening. And we would love for you to, my show is your show. Come back anytime you want to talk about the next project, the next piece, the next world, where in the world you're going. Our show is always your show.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much.
We appreciate you. Congrats on this, and break all the legs.
Thank you.